Welcome to You're Not Broken, Just Rewiring, a free audiobook podcast by me, Glenn Ostlund. Introduction. You're not broken, you're just rewiring. Is it just me, or do some people seem to be doing everything right and still feel like something's off? Maybe you've been there too. You show up, you do the therapy, you journal, you meditate, you drink the green juice, download the mindfulness app everybody's talking about, try the cold plunge. From the outside, you're fine, maybe even thriving. But inside? There's static, a strange disconnection, a feeling like your internal weather doesn't match the forecast. Like the radio's tuned just slightly off the station. Like you're living in two realities, one that works on paper and one that hums with a quiet ache. If that's you, if that's ever been you, then welcome. This book is for you. You're not broken, you're rewiring. And I don't mean that as a clever affirmation to tape to your mirror. I mean it literally, biologically, psychologically, spiritually. You are a living system that adapts, constantly, sometimes consciously, mostly unconsciously. And when that wiring begins to shift, when old survival patterns start to glitch, healing doesn't feel like harmony. It feels like friction, like tension, like dissonance. But the glitch? That's not failure. That's signal. That's where this book begins. A book built like a nervous system. This isn't a 10-step plan. It's not a linear map or an expert's guide to fixing yourself. Because thriving doesn't move in straight lines. It spirals. Maybe you've said to your therapist, I know what I should do, but I just can't seem to do it. Maybe your brain feels stuck in replay mode, running the same scenarios again and again. Maybe your relationships keep cycling, different faces, same patterns. Maybe your life looks solid from the outside, but deep down, something doesn't quite connect. That's where this book meets you. Because behavior is only part of the story. Beneath every pattern is a function. And once you learn to sense it, to feel it, something starts to shift. That shift is the foundation of how I work. It's also how this book is built. Why form versus function matters. I hold degrees in both folklore and mythology and clinical mental health counseling. One taught me how stories behave, how myths evolve, how symbols encode survival. The other trained me to track nervous systems, trauma patterns, and evidence-based change. Together, they have been teaching me this. Meaning isn't just found in form, it's revealed in function. This book loops between those layers, between science and symbol, between myth and mechanism, between the story you think you're living and the systems shaping that story beneath your awareness. Each chapter is a spiral, a question, a metaphor, a glitch, a reframe, a return, a reminder. Not to explain everything, but to help your system recognize itself. The spiral has 3 turns. Part 1, Origin and Initiation, chapters 1 through 6. We begin where many people enter therapy, the symptom that won't resolve, the emotion that doesn't make sense, the pattern that won't stop repeating. These early chapters explore your roots, cultural, psychological, biological. It's the dragonfly in the mud, armored, instinctive, submerged, and beginning to climb. Part 2, Spiraling Toward Union, chapters 7 through 12. Here the spiral tightens, meaning deepens. The first half explores esoteric systems, sources of inspiration, instigators of reflection. I offer these not as dogma, but as symbolic blueprints. They stir archetypes. They echo something deep in the psyche. The second half grounds those same insights in clinical science, polyvagal theory, brainwave states, trauma research. It's a conversation across hemispheres. One side speaks in myth, the other in mechanism. Together, they tune your nervous system toward coherence. Part 3. Return and Inversion, chapters 13 to 18. Here the spiral deepens and expands. Earlier questions resurface, but something has changed. Your system hears them differently. This final section becomes less map, more mirror, less prescription, more poetry. I step back. The chapters become a kind of living artwork that I call a kaleidoscopic imprint of life upon the fabric of mind. It's not here to be decoded. It's here to be felt. So notice what stirs, what confuses, what resonates. That's the point. Translation devices and endnotes. This book moves between multiple domains: psychology, neuroscience, folklore, spirituality, not to merge them into a single truth, but to explore how different systems echo one another in function. To help make those echoes clearer, I use what I call translation devices, symbolic, scientific pairings that bridge languages of meaning. They're not definitions, they're relational metaphors, ways to keep both hemispheres of your brain in dialogue. For example, service to other becomes co-regulation and emotional reciprocity. Vibration becomes interoceptive tone and signal accuracy. Soul polarity becomes relational momentum shaped by nervous system patterns. Density becomes developmental complexity organized by system stability. Divine timing becomes nervous system readiness and the sequencing of integration, and so on. So if something sounds too woo, look for what it's doing. Ask, what's the function beneath this form? And if it settles in your system, great. If it stirs resistance, that's signal 2. For clarity and flow, I've placed elaborations and source details in endnotes at the end of each chapter. You don't need them to understand the message, but if you want to dive deeper, they're there, like tuning forks, not footnotes. A note on the unconscious. Throughout this book, I use the word unconscious, and I want to clarify what I mean. Some prefer subconscious because it feels more alive and relational. I respect that. But here, I use unconscious in the Jungian sense, not as something passive or repressed, but as a living field of instinct, archetype, ancestral memory, and adaptive patterning. In neurobiology, this shows up as implicit memory, bottom-up processing, autonomic patterning, the silent architecture that shapes your behavior without asking for your attention. Heartbeat, startle reflex, gut knowing, signals without words, wisdom without language. When I say unconscious, I'm naming the landscape beneath your story, not to control it, but to listen more closely, to partner with it, to rewire from the inside out. Client stories. The stories you will encounter here are composites, blends of many clients, coaching experiences, and therapeutic themes. All names and details have been changed to protect confidentiality. These aren't case studies. They're invitations to resonance, to see what your nervous system recognizes. A note to my Mormon family, friends, and clients, and to any believer who might feel this book is coming for something sacred. Before we go any further, I want to speak directly to those of you who come from a faith tradition, especially those from my own Mormon background, who might read parts of this book and feel a pang, a sting, a sense that I'm attacking something sacred in you. that I'm mocking or minimizing what you hold precious and true. That's not my intention. But I know how easily it can come across that way, especially when I'm critiquing parts of myself, because the lines between personal reflection and communal belief can get tangled fast. So let me be specific. One of the deepest challenges I've faced throughout my life has been pride, a subtle, often unconscious sense of superiority, a belief rooted in how I internalized certain teachings growing up Mormon, that I was right and others were wrong. I know not everyone absorbs the message that way, but that's how it landed in me, and it shaped how I saw the world, how I related to others, how I measured worth. I explore that more deeply later in the book, but I want to name it here, early and plainly. This project is not a rejection of faith or of people of faith. It's not a takedown. It's a reckoning with my own wiring, with the ways I learned to separate instead of connect, with the ways I masked insecurity as moral clarity. And it has taken me years to learn what Carl Rogers called unconditional positive regard, a posture of open-hearted respect toward every person and every sincere attempt to make the world better, even if we fumble along the way. So if something in these pages feels like judgment, please pause. Please remember, it's not you, it's me. It's my glitch, not yours. My intention is not to persuade you out of your beliefs, but to share what has helped me rewire mine, to offer a view of life that has slowly, tenderly brought me into a deeper sense of integration, and to remind you, as I have to remind myself again and again, we're not broken. We're rewiring, always. What to expect? Each chapter opens with a question. Is it just me? That's the doorway. From there, we spiral through metaphor, science, story, and symptom, through the glitch, through the signal. Here's the shape of that first turn. Chapter 1, Form versus Function. When doing everything right still feels wrong, it's time to question the system, not the self. Chapter 2, Agency as Emergence, like the brushstroke that bends inside the hand of the cosmos. Chapter 3, Wholeness as Resonance, realignment of mind, body, and spirit as layered expressions of one system. Chapter 4, Pain as Protest, not a punishment, but a signal. Chapter 5, Weight as Wisdom, the felt pressure that anchors growth. Chapter 6, Polarity as Path, each leaning as signal, each signal as soul. And beneath it all, you're not broken, you're rewiring, always. Not into who you were taught to be, but into who your entire system already is. So, take a breath, get curious, begin wherever you are because the journey is already happening. So, let's spiral in.